They say the Templars were forged in the fires of the Crusades, but that is only half the truth. In the silent ruins of Solomon's Temple, beneath the ancient stones of Jerusalem, 9 knights stepped into the darkness and were never the same again. What they uncovered below the Temple Mount was not gold, nor relics, but something far older, far more dangerous. Something that would rewrite their purpose, fracture their faith, and echo across centuries as whispers of a hidden covenant, one the church dared not speak aloud. And if what they found was ever revealed, the entire structure of Christianity might have crumbled. So they buried it. Before we descend into these forbidden corridors of history, hit the like button, subscribe, and share this video, so the secrets they tried to erase can finally see the light. Because what follows has been buried for 900 years. The year was 1119. Jerusalem stood trembling under Crusader banners. Pilgrims flooded the holy city, clutching rosaries and relics, terrified of ambush on the roads. It was then that 9 knights arrived. Not soldiers of fortune, not nameless crusaders, but hand-picked men of noble blood, bound by oaths too old to be written. Their leader was Hugues de Payens, a man whose eyes were said to be like cold iron in moonlight. Officially, their mission was simple: protect pilgrims. Unofficially, they did something no knight should do. They vanished. They took up residence in a wing of the Al-Aqsa Mosque, which sat atop the ruins of Solomon's Temple, the Temple Mount. And then, for 9 full years, they descended into the tunnels beneath it. Not to guard, but to dig. No records speak of battles fought during those years. No chronicles tell of patrols or pilgrim escorts. Instead, Jerusalem's bazaars whispered of strange tools carried at night, of cryptic symbols inked on parchment, of velvet-wrapped objects smuggled from the ruins, and of 9 knights who returned each dawn from underground with dust in their hair and silence in their eyes. Even the chroniclers of the Crusades noted the void. 9 knights, sworn to protect the roads, doing nothing visible at all. The church offered no explanation. Some suspected madness, others suspected heresy, but none knew the truth. They were not building a military order. They were unearthing something that predated the church itself. Centuries later, fragments of their secret began to surface like bones in shifting soil. Medieval Jewish texts hinted at hidden vaults beneath Solomon's temple, sealed chambers said to house the Ark of the Covenant, or the remnants of a priestly order called the Watchers. Arab chroniclers wrote of Frankish knights who walk like ghosts, carrying black stone boxes engraved with unknown runes. Some spoke of scrolls written in ancient Hebrew and something older than Hebrew, a script no priest would dare to bless. Whatever the truth, when the 9 knights finally re-emerged in 1128, they were not the same men who had gone below. Their silence was heavier. Their gazes no longer lingered on the world around them, as if they now looked through it. They spoke in codes and allegories. They built with knowledge they should not have possessed. They began to move like men guided by a map no one else could see. This was not about defending pilgrims anymore. It was about guarding a secret. Within a decade, those same 9 knights became the core of what the world would know as the Knights Templar. In 1129, the church, with uncanny swiftness, granted them full papal endorsement. They became answerable to no king, no bishop, no earthly power but the Pope himself. Their rise was unprecedented. While other Crusader orders begged for scraps, the Templars amassed land, castles, ships, and gold across Europe. Kings feared them, popes praised them, commoners worshipped them. Yet none could explain how 9 obscure knights became the most powerful organization in Christendom in a single generation. Those who watched closely noticed something chilling. They never spoke of what they found beneath the temple, but they built their entire order around it. Templar architecture soon carried symbols no church had sanctioned. The eight-pointed cross, the blazing star, the interlocked circles of eternity. These were not Christian motifs. They were far older, echoing patterns found on Phoenician ruins and Babylonian tablets. Their commanderies were aligned with astronomical precision, as though mapping celestial paths rather than earthly needs. Their rituals were conducted at night by candlelight, with veiled icons and oaths whispered in forgotten tongues. When questioned, they smiled but did not answer. Some claimed they had found Solomon's lost writings, treatises on sacred geometry, alchemy, and angelic hierarchies. Others whispered of a bloodline, a covenant sealed in the temple stones that predated Rome, predated Christ, perhaps even predated man. Whatever it was, it became the hidden spine of their order, and it made them untouchable. For nearly 2 centuries they thrived, crusading, trading, and weaving their network across Europe like a spiderweb of stone. But secrets cannot stay buried forever. By the early 1300s, the Templars were richer than kingdoms and owed allegiance to none. Kings borrowed money from them. Popes feared them. And then came Friday, October 13th, 1307. In a single dawn raid, King Philip IV of France ordered the arrest of every Templar. They were accused of heresy, witchcraft, and devil worship. Under torture, some confessed to spitting on the cross, worshipping a severed head called Baphomet, and practicing forbidden rites. But others died without speaking a word, even as their flesh burned. The world called it the end of the Templars. But those who understand the deeper currents of history and know better, you cannot burn a shadow, and you cannot kill what lives beneath the ground. After their destruction, the Templar treasure was never found. Their archives vanished. Their ships disappeared from French ports. It was as if they had expected their downfall and melted into the earth. In the centuries that followed, their symbols resurfaced in impossible places, carved on cathedral stones in Scotland, hidden in Masonic blueprints, etched on the inner walls of Rosslyn Chapel, alongside figures of angels, demons, and something that is neither. Everywhere these symbols appear, power follows. Banking systems, secret societies, even the blueprints of modern capitalism carry faint echoes of Templar methods. Compartmentalized knowledge, coded correspondence, circles within circles. They may be gone, but their pattern survived. So what was buried beneath Solomon's temple? Historians still argue, but the evidence whispers. Ancient Jewish texts describe the foundation stone, the point where heaven touched earth, hidden at the heart of the temple. Islamic tradition calls it the Sakra, the rock inside the dome of the rock, said to float at the end of days. Some scholars believe the Templars uncovered scrolls from the First Temple era, containing rituals older than Mosaic law, revealing a cosmology where angels were not servants, but jailers. Others believe they found the Ark of the Covenant itself, or at least what remained of it. And a few, the most feared, whisper they found the tomb of something not human, something Solomon himself had sealed away, naming it only the Silence. Whatever it was, the Templars changed the moment they saw it. Their faith cracked, their purpose hardened, and their silence became absolute. In the Vatican archives, buried under centuries of dust, lies a single letter from 1308, unsigned, unsealed, and written in a code broken only once. It reads, "The order has fallen above, but it endures below." Some believe the Templars simply became the Freemasons or the Rosicrucians, or the invisible architects of modern finance. Others believe they still guard the secret they found, waiting for the world to become strong enough or mad enough to face it. And if that day comes, it will not be the return of the Templars. It will be the return of what they served. If this glimpse into the forbidden history of the Knights Templar has left your pulse racing and your mind full of questions, then don't let the story end here. Hit the like button, subscribe, and share this video. Because only by bringing these shadows into the light can we hope to understand what still moves beneath our feet. The Templars may be gone, but their secret is still waiting. Haunt the church for centuries to come. For as the 9 returned from Jerusalem, they carried more than dust on their boots. They carried blueprints of a different world, one not governed by thrones or altars, but by geometry, secrecy, and will. In France, they raised their first commanderies with uncanny precision. Stone by stone, they embedded the proportions they had found beneath Solomon's temple. Ratios matching the arc of the sun, the tilt of the equinox, the golden sequence spiraling through seashells and galaxies alike. Cathedrals rose like stone prayers, yet their forms spoke a silent language of numbers, not scripture. In Chartres, the rose windows bloomed with sacred geometry. In Paris, their round churches mirrored the circular vaults beneath the Temple Mount. And across Europe, pilgrims who entered Templar chapels walked unknowingly through diagrams of the cosmos carved in stone. While priests thundered sermons of sin and salvation, the Templars spoke softly in cipher. They were building not just churches, but machines of memory, encoding their revelations in walls that could not burn and arches that could not be silenced. Rome watched, suspicious, but the church could not condemn what it could not comprehend. By the mid-1100s, the Templars were no longer a band of knights. They were an invisible architecture threaded through Europe. Warriors, masons, bankers, philosophers. They built fortresses along ley lines, invisible veins of the earth once mapped by druids and older still by the Watchers. Their preceptories formed constellations when plotted on parchment, echoing star patterns that matched those sketched on the ancient scrolls. Their rituals shifted too. New initiates no longer swore fealty to Christ alone, but to the order itself, to the path, not the throne. They were blindfolded, knelt in darkness, and sworn to silence on pain of death. Only the inner circle, the Rex Conciones, read the oldest scrolls. Each man who glimpsed them returned changed, less devout, more determined. They began to speak not of heaven, but of alignment. To the church they still appeared pious, but among themselves they whispered that the soul was not saved by confession, but awakened by understanding. This was their heresy and their power. Rome soon sensed the fracture. Priests complained that Templars rarely attended Mass. Bishops fumed that the knights answered to no earthly authority, not even to them. Pope Innocent II granted them exemption from tithes, tolls, and laws, and thus made them untouchable. But beneath this diplomatic surface, a quiet war of ideas began. The Church preached obedience. The Templars practiced inquiry. The Church feared knowledge as the fruit of pride. The Templars treated it as the root of divinity. And their growing wealth, farms, fleets, entire cities paying them tribute, gave them the means to protect their secret doctrine behind stone and steel. Whispers spread that they kept libraries no priest could enter, that they sent riders at midnight carrying sealed black satchels between Paris and Jerusalem, between London and Acre. And everywhere their mark appeared, the double-headed eagle, the rose of 8 petals, the cross within a circle, carved where only stonemasons would see, hidden from the congregations that knelt below. The Church could not prove heresy, but it could smell it. By the 1200s, the Templars were more than warriors. They were Europe's first bankers. Pilgrims entrusted them with gold in London and received the same value in Jerusalem, marked by coded notes only Templars could read. Their network spanned from the Scottish Highlands to the ports of Acre. They became richer than kings, and still they tithed to no one. Behind their fortified walls, underground vaults yawned like open graves, guarded by men who feared neither death nor damnation. Chroniclers wrote of black lacquered coffers that no key could open, and of sealed chambers where only the Grand Master could tread, barefoot and hooded. Those who entered did not return the same. Some spoke no more. Others raved of machines of light hidden in darkness, of maps of the heavens traced on human bones. If any of this reached Rome, it was buried at once. But the seed of fear had been planted, and fear, like faith, grows quickly in the dark. It came to harvest on a single autumn dawn, Friday, October 13th, 1307. Across France, as the first bells rang, the king's soldiers struck. Thousands of Templars were dragged from their beds, shackled and accused of heresy. Philip IV owed them gold he could not repay, and Pope Clement, once their ally, turned away. The charges were grotesque: spitting on the cross, worshipping a severed head, consorting with demons, denying Christ under red-hot irons and racks. Some confessed to everything. Others bit off their own tongues rather than speak. In Paris, the Grand Master Jacques de Molay was burned alive before Notre Dame. Eyewitnesses swore he did not scream, only stared at the cathedral spires until the flesh fell from his bones. And as the flames consumed him, he spoke. "This is not the end. The order lives beneath the ashes." The crowds crossed themselves, but none forgot those words. The arrests were swift, but the Templars had prepared. By the time the king's men breached their commanderies, the treasure was gone. Their ships had vanished from La Rochelle the night before. Their archives were missing, their coffers empty, their halls abandoned. It was as if the order had dissolved into smoke, but the symbols endured. They surfaced in Scotland's Rosslyn Chapel, carved decades later with figures of maize and aloe, plants no European had seen before Columbus. They reappeared in Freemason lodges, in secretive guilds that rose soon after the Templars' fall, using the same rituals of blindfolds, oaths, and compasses. And their methods, secrecy, coded banking, layered command, echo in modern systems of finance and intelligence. The church erased their name, but their pattern survived. Today, historians still argue, did the Templars die, or did they become something else? Some trace their bloodlines through European nobility, through hidden dynasties that shaped empires from the shadows. Others find their symbols etched into the foundations of Washington, D.C., into the architecture of global banks, into the floor plans of cities aligned to stars. And deep beneath Jerusalem, the ancient tunnels still wait. No one digs there now. Too dangerous, too unstable, too sacred. But those who have glimpsed the old maps say many of the deepest passages remain unmapped, sealed off by orders no government will name. Perhaps they are empty, or perhaps they still hold what 9 knights found, and what they chose to hide from the world. 9 men went into the earth beneath Solomon's temple. They returned not as soldiers, but as keepers of a secret older than Rome. They carried that secret across continents, encoded it in cathedrals, cloaked it in ritual, and guarded it with blood. The world believes they were destroyed. But shadows do not burn. And if one listens closely in the forgotten chapels of Europe, in the sealed vaults of old castles, in the dust-choked corridors beneath Jerusalem, one can almost hear it still, a whisper, patient and eternal, waiting to be heard again. If this journey through the hidden history of the Knights Templar has gripped your mind and chilled your spine, then do not let their story vanish into silence. Like this video, share it, and subscribe to this channel, because only by dragging these forgotten truths into the light can we hope to understand what still stirs in the dark beneath our feet. The Templars may be gone, but their secret is still waiting. Bore striking resemblance to the glyphs and diagrams left behind by the Essenes centuries before. The parallels were undeniable, where Christian crosses or Islamic calligraphy would have adorned holy places. These ruins displayed interlocking spirals, triple-knotted sigils, and geometric lattices that mirrored constellations seen only once every 1,000 years. The Essenes had been erased by Rome after the Jewish revolt, scattered, executed, or absorbed into obscurity. Yet it now appeared they had not simply vanished. They had hidden their greatest truths where only those willing to dig through darkness could find them. And the Templars had done just that. Some fragments described an order of watchers, not angels in the Christian sense, but sentinels of cosmic law, beings who recorded the rise and fall of civilizations and intervened only to seal away dangerous knowledge. Others spoke of the Covenant of Silence, a pact that forbade revealing certain truths to unprepared minds, for such truths could shatter the pillars that hold the world upright. The Templars, now standing in the dust of these lost mystics, realized they were not the first keepers of forbidden knowledge. They were simply the latest, and perhaps the last. By the time they returned to Europe, the transformation was complete. The 9 who had descended beneath the Temple Mount emerged as something more than men. A priesthood wrapped in armor, carrying scrolls instead of banners. They called their new central rule the Regula Magistri, the Master's Rule. But buried within its coded Latin were mathematical sequences, celestial diagrams, and cryptic invocations lifted from the vault. Their words to outsiders were of faith and humility, but among themselves they spoke of the alignment, a coming moment when heaven and earth would resonate as one, and the keepers of the ancient knowledge must be ready to guide the world through it, or seal it away forever. They began to weave this knowledge into everything they touched. Their preceptories rose along ley lines. Their commanderies mirrored star constellations. Their chapels were designed as frequency chambers, spaces that amplified sound and energy with eerie precision. Chants echoed longer under their arches than in any cathedral. Whispers carried from altar to nave as if the stone itself remembered. They had turned architecture into a vessel for consciousness. What the kings of Europe saw was an army of pious warrior monks. What they could not see was the second order, hidden within the first, a closed inner circle known only as Custodes Aeternum, the keepers of eternity. This inner order swore oaths not to Christ or Pope, but to the legacy of the vault. They were trained in sacred geometry, astronomy, ancient languages, and ciphered memory systems so complex that knowledge could be hidden across hundreds of minds like shards of a single mirror. If one fell, the whole would endure, and so their network spread silently across Europe. One Templar fortress in Portugal aligned perfectly with sunrise on the equinox. Another in England echoed the Orion constellation. Their maps, when overlaid, formed a web across the continent, a secret constellation drawn upon the earth. Only the custodes knew the pattern's meaning. To the outside world, it was coincidence. To them, it was prophecy. At first, the Vatican rejoiced at their success. The Templars had become heroes of Christendom, conquering cities, defending pilgrims, funding crusades. But soon the Church began to notice troubling cracks. Knights who spoke little of Christ, but much of the pattern. Chapels bearing no crucifix, only geometric sigils. Commanders who refused bishops' entry to their libraries. By the mid-1200s, the Templars were wealthier than most kingdoms, their influence sprawling from Scotland to Jerusalem. And yet they grew ever more aloof from the church they were sworn to serve. Rumors spread among abbots that the knights had ceased confession, that they performed nocturnal rites by torchlight, kneeling before a faceless idol carved from black stone. None could prove it, but all felt it. The Vatican began to fear that the Templars had ceased to be servants and had become something else. The reckoning came swiftly, like a sword in the dark. Friday, October 13th, 1307, a date cursed ever after. King Philip IV of France, drowning in debt to the Templars, conspired with Pope Clement XI. Before dawn, soldiers stormed every Templar house in France. Thousands were arrested. Hundreds were tortured. Confessions were wrung from shattered bodies. Spitting on the cross, worshipping a severed head. Secret rites of heresy. But what the torturers could not extract was the truth. Where was the vault's knowledge now? The Templars would not say. Even broken on the wheel, even burned alive, they kept their silence. And so their enemies destroyed only the shell, not the core. For when the king's men opened the Templar treasury at La Rochelle, it was empty. Their ships had sailed the night before, into a fog that swallowed them forever. In the years that followed, the order was officially dissolved. Their lands were seized, their leaders executed. But whispers survived. In Scotland, Templar fugitives fought alongside Robert the Bruce at Bannockburn. In Portugal, they simply renamed themselves the Order of Christ and continued as if nothing had changed. In Switzerland, their banking methods seeded the first private banks. And across Europe, their symbols began appearing in places no one expected. Etched into Masonic blueprints, carved on cathedral keystones, hidden in the rose windows of Gothic churches, they had not died. They had changed shape. The church had burned their bodies. But their ideas, their pattern, lived on like a ghost stitched into the fabric of Europe. What did the Templars truly bring back from beneath the Temple Mount? Historians debate, but the evidence whispers like dust in a tomb. They left behind architecture centuries ahead of its time, mathematics known only to lost civilizations, and rituals eerily similar to those of the Essenes and older sects. Their chapels align with the solstices. Their seals encode the golden ratio. Their archives vanished as if swallowed by the earth itself. Perhaps they found only scrolls. Perhaps they found the blueprint of reality, Solomon's machine of heaven, as one fragment called it. Whatever it was, they believed it too dangerous to reveal, and so they split it, scattered it, and buried it inside stone and bloodlines, waiting for a world capable of surviving it. 9 knights entered the darkness beneath Solomon's temple. They emerged as something the world had never seen and will not see again. They became custodians of forbidden truth, architects of the invisible, engineers of destiny itself. The church tried to erase them. Time tried to forget them. But the stones remember. The tunnels remember. And somewhere beneath the Temple Mount, behind seals no king can break, the vault still waits, silent, patient, and undisturbed, waiting for someone brave enough, or mad enough, to open it again. If this journey into the hidden legacy of the Knights Templar has set your heart racing and your mind reeling, like this video, share it, and subscribe to this channel, because the story is not over. The Templars may have vanished, but their secret is still alive.